Hello my dorks, it's the Dork Author here, and today we are back with another top 10 video. And this one's going to be a rather special video, at least to me. We are going to be discussing the top 10 most well-written creepypastas, in my opinion. Now what do I define as well-written? These are judging the story on these criteria. The overall enjoyability of the story for me, the rewatchability / rereadability, would I come back to this story later, or would I just read it once and never read it again? Of course how scary it actually is, because you know creepypastas are all about horror. And lastly, its uniqueness. Is this story unique, or has it already been done before? Those are the major criteria for this video. I don't want to keep this intro dragging along for too long, so let's jump right in to the number 10 spot. Coming in at the number 10 spot, we have Squidward Suicide. Now this may come as a little bit of a surprise to people considering, you know, my whole rivalry with the story beforehand. But I gotta admit, for what it is, it's pretty good. It is very descriptive with the detail, you know. While I don't approve of it having child murder in there, everything else about the environment, basically how the whole video portrays itself, you know, the little details, the whispering in the background, just how everything's all eerie and things like that. I love those touches. Plus all the narrations by people help improve it overall. I do visit this story every once in a while, but it's at the number 10 spot simply for the fact that I don't find myself coming to this story as much as I do other stories out there. It's alright for what it is. You've got stories like Dead Bot, which basically do the exact same thing, except obviously The Simpsons instead of SpongeBob. So it's kind of unoriginal, unless it came first, but I'm pretty sure Dead Bot came first. Overall though, it's fine for what it is. So let's go on to the number 9 spot. Coming in at the number 9 spot, we have Normal Porn for Normal People. The title is ersatz, a fancy word which here means fake. There's no porn in the actual story. I don't know why the author decided to call the story this, but they did. And now we have this story. What are my thoughts on Normal Porn for Normal People? Weird. Weird as hell. But in a good way, honestly. Never have I seen a story so peculiar and so out of whack than this story. Legit, the first time I saw this story, seeing it narrated or reading it myself, my first thoughts were, what the fuck? Literally, just, what the fuck? Because I'd never read a story that did stuff like this. You've got stuff that's scary, but also weird. But weird enough to constitute as being scary. I enjoy the details to some extent. Some other details I'd rather not know, like a girl licking a whole washing machine or something like that clean with her tongue. A lot of it did seem rather cruel, like making a guy, I think he didn't have any limbs, or he did have limbs but they didn't work, do like some dance moves or something creepy like that. Just overall, the best way to describe this story in one word is weird. However, I do find myself coming back to this story once again every once in a while, and I enjoy the narrations from all of them. So Normal Porn for Normal People primarily gets on this list for its interesting concept, and overall how unique and weird it is. I didn't enjoy it as much as other stories later on the list, but it's okay. Let's go on to the number 8 spot. At number 8, we have the SpongeBob bootleg episode. By far, probably, my favourite ever SpongeBob creepypasta. What I love about this story is how effective it is. It is incredibly short for a creepypasta, yet it reels you in so well. And I've never seen a story besides Slender Man have such an amazing effect on the viewer. Did SpongeBob blink? Like, is that real? You guys don't know the amount of comments that I've seen in videos, arguing back and forth, telling each other, oh my god, SpongeBob blinked at this time, I swear I saw him blink. I did do a debunking video on this, proving that it is indeed fake. The mind just interprets it. So if you think something is real, you firmly believe it. Even if that thing happens or doesn't happen, your mind creates the scenario of what you want to happen. So if you didn't believe in UFOs, but a UFO flew over your house, your mind would create the image of the UFO not being there. Basically simple like that. The story doesn't really go hardcore into the gore, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I feel like stories often come apart when it comes to the right amount of gore / murder and just details like that. They often overindulge in it, which ends up making it more cringy than it does actually scary, which is why Cupcakes really fell apart for me. I like revisiting this story from time to time. listening to all the narrations and whatnot, but honestly I rewatched this video on YouTube mostly to see the comment sections argue if SpongeBob actually blinked or not. But as a story, I really appreciate whoever made the SpongeBob bootleg episode. It's really good. If you haven't read or seen it, everyone, I highly recommend that you do. Let's go on to the number 7 spot. At number 7, we have Don't Eat Recycled Pizza by the Shadow Reader. You guys have no idea how much this story surprised me. When I first watched this story and listened to it, I thought, I wonder what he's going to come up with. It's a Chuck E. Cheese creepypasta, maybe it'll go something like FNAF, maybe there'll be some kind of murder mystery into it. And when I listened to that story, I legitimately felt ill. But it was amazing because of how the story was detailed. It was based on the whole fad of recycled pizza which was going around for a while. Shane Dawson did a whole video on it, basically trying to see if they actually did reuse the pizza that the guests didn't eat. And if they did, well, that's freaking disgusting. Shadow Reader wrote a whole story about it. And oh my god, he knocked it out of the park with the detail. Like, I'm gonna play some of his video, so you guys can just see the narration.
Everything honestly was going by rather normally, until that one day. As I was serving the 12th pizza that week on my final shift, one of the children had been running around the place eating the pizza, a lot of it actually, practically shoving it down his gullet. Well, the kid was particularly obese, so then again, wasn't really shocking that he did that. However, once he had finally finished the second or third slice that he had shoved into his pie hole, he gagged for a bit, turned a little bit green, I'm not joking, he actually did that, and then proceeded to projectile vomit all over the place. Now, this in and of its own self wasn't really that big of a deal, as we did tend to have a couple of people who would overeat themselves and then puke all over the fucking place. But what happened almost afterwards completely and utterly made me stop dead in my tracks. Other people who had been eating the pizza as well started to do the same thing as well. I can remember it. The thick, yellow and green colored vomit and chunks of undigested food splattering all over the place at a fast rate, and it showed no signs of stopping anytime soon. Soon, the vomit went from being yellow to a pure red. People at this point, who had been affected and were continuously vomiting, now started screaming and yelling in between pukes, screaming that something was wrong with them, that they felt like they were melting inside, practically begging for the pain and everything to stop. Many of them were screaming so much that some of them even wind up choking on their own vomit and dying right then and there. It was awful. I mean, there wasn't much that me or any of the other employees could do. I mean, one person tried balancing one person away to keep them from choking, but no matter what happened, they still did. And the vomit just continued to get redder and redder and redder until it was nothing more but blood coming out of their mouths.
Like, for real, I almost felt ill when I was watching this story. But I'm glad I did, because it showed that the gore and everything was used effectively, and it wasn't in there for complete shock value. Cupcakes used gore, but overall it was just, a bloodbath fest. I feel like this story used just enough gore to make it work. This story isn't on here for its rewatchability. I only watched this story in Once a Blue Moon because of how uncomfortable it is. But I put it on here just because of how well written it is. And you know, it's effective on making you feel ill, because that's what it is trying to do. It's not trying to be overly obscene like Sweet Apple Massacre is, or Play With Me Sally, either one of those. It's just a genuine story about a real thing that was going around. And overall, Shadow Reader, if you're watching this, you get my seal of approval, buddy. Let's go on to the number 6 spot. Coming in at number 6 is the first My Little Pony story on here, and yes, there will be more. The Cough by Ebon Main. And I guess you can also count the versions of the Dark Reindeer and myself, yes, selfless plug, I know. But overall though, the original Cough is primarily what I'm talking about here. Never have I once seen a My Little Pony creepypasta that has reeled me in so much, except for a spot later on the list, but we'll get to that later. The Cough has such a simple premise. The main 6 are locked inside of a room, no way in, no way out, A deadly virus is going around which we don't fully know the effects of. My guess is something zombie related. Then one of them hears a cough. Then the whole story is just a guess who coughed, the amount of tension that's in the room because, the person who coughs has to die. But they're all really good friends, they all have family and friends who would miss them if they died. But somebody has to die in order to prevent the spread of the cough so that the rest can go free. I love the emotion within this story as well. The other people that have done narrations with actual voice actors really, really nailed it. The amount of emotion and just life, charisma, everything they bring to the story makes it better. I also adore the twist ending. Fluttershy was not the one who coughed, but someone else. Who was it though? I already have my thoughts on who I think personally coughed. I would like to see you guys go to the comment section if you want to answer this question. Who do you think was the one who coughed out of the main 6? I find myself rewatching this story like once every 2 weeks or something, because I just love it. I can't get enough of the simple premise and everything. Yeah, overly obsessive creepypasta fan over here, I really don't give a damn. It entertains me, I need background noise when I'm doing stuff, so I'm happy. If you have not read or even seen anything on the cough, I highly recommend that you guys check it out. It's done by many people, many series, I myself have even done a little swing on it, but overall, check it out if you haven't seen it already. Let's go on to the number 5 spot. Smack in the middle of this list, and number 5, we have Candle Cove. I shouldn't need to say much about this story considering how much I've praised it on the channel, but if you are new to the channel, I'll give you my opinions. One of the greatest creepypastas ever made. I love chat room stories, so this is generally unique. You don't see chat room stories pretty often. The only 2 others that I could kind of name is My Dead Girlfriend Keeps Messaging Me on Facebook, and Annie96 is Typing, but those barely qualify in my opinion. Besides the point, Candle Cove is amazing. You know a creepypasta is good when an entire TV show dedicates an entire season to making it about your story. And yes, Candle Cove got a kind of TV show, well, it was part of a TV show called Channel Zero. It got an entire first season dedicated to it. It obviously had a little more story than the original Candle Cove did, because it's generally on the shorter side of generic creepypastas. There is only one very tiny gripe that I have with this story, and that's the fact that I don't really understand the ending. Now, I obviously know why I don't understand it, because that's how it was designed. I believe it's a let the audience come up with their own conclusions kind of deal. The only reason why I have a kind of gripe about it is I like to know all of the answers about everything. Now, I know you can't always get that because, that's life and all, but I really would have liked to have known the proper truth of Candle Cove, the original story. Was it a hijacking broadcast? Did it actually air? Was it some kind of hallucination by the children? Or was there something else going on? I'd have liked to have seen that further elaborated on. But whatever, we still got this amazing story, and I'm not complaining about it at all. Like all the other stories in this list, I often find myself coming back to it every once in a while. It's definitely a really fun story if you want to narrate it or read it together with your friends, because there's a lot of characters within Candle Cove, and you can obviously get a voice actor for all of them. So, in a nutshell, Candle Cove is just a really well written story that's incredibly unique, fun, and has an amazing twist ending. That's really all there is to it, and it's amazing. Let's go on to the number 4 spot. Coming in at the number 4 spot, we have Gateway of the Mind. Oh my goodness, did a story surprise me. This is probably the story that surprised me the most. I had never heard of Gateway of the Mind until, 2021. So I was reading it for the first time, kinda middle ground expectations. With a title like Gateway of the Mind, you don't really know what to expect when you begin reading it. And when I read it all the way through right to the end, I was pleasantly surprised. This story has detail, this story has originality, and this story has an amazing ending. One of my favourite endings out of all of creepypastas is from Gateway of the Mind. The premise of this story is very simple. They want to see if removing all of the senses within the human, like taste, sight, smell, pretty much all the senses we use, if we remove all of that, the person who has had all that removed will have a direct line or connection to God. So a man who is dying of some kind of illness decides to take the risk, because he hasn't got anything else to live for or anything to lose, so he agrees and has every single one of his senses removed surgically, and is placed and just basically observe what happens. And he slowly goes insane, screams, shouts, all that stuff, and then he actually does begin to talk to God. At first they think he's primarily like a little bit loopy or he's seeing stuff, but that's when this guy comes out and starts naming dead relatives of the family that only the people who were conducting the experiment would know. It was from that moment on, however, that they knew something was wrong. So then they go in to check on the subject, I don't know, a few days later, whatever you want to say, and he's basically almost dead. Right before he dies, he says this: "I have spoken with God. He has abandoned us." Like seriously, when I first heard that line, it sent chills down my spine. No creepypasta has ever amazed me more of an ending than Gateway of the Mind, at least ones that I haven't seen before. If you haven't read Gateway of the Mind, I highly recommend you do. There's a whole YouTube video about it as well that's also pretty cool. Now I'm going to be honest with you all here. Deciding between this story and number 3 on the list was very difficult, you have no idea. But ultimately I give the slight edge to the Russian sleep experiment at the number 3 spot. This story is kind of similar to Gateway of the Mind. A bunch of test subjects, 5 I believe, all enemies of the States or enemies of somewhere in the world, I guess Russia, in World War II. All of them are kept contained in a room, basically completely sealed in, no way in or out, with large porthole windows in and out so they can see the test subjects, everything. Microphones so they can hear what's going on, the generic setup before the introductions of wireless cameras. The whole thing of this was to keep the subjects alive and awake for 30 days with no sleep, just to see what would happen. It was like a test of a gas stimulant that's supposed to keep the subjects awake. The first 5 days of it are fairly normal, them chatting about their experiences in the war, blah blah blah. After that is when the story really begins. They stop pretty much all conversation and begins whispering into the microphones in order to, get the attention, get the trust of the people that's keeping them captive. Then I believe on day 9, one of the subjects begins screaming, his entire lungs basically just wailing, running around the room, like really jogging all around the room. Then the others begin to smear pages with their own excrement on the porthole windows, just covering all of it. It's gross. Then more subjects begin screaming, it's just a whole mess. This all comes to a boiling point on day 14, when the scientists begin using the intercom within the room to try and get some kind of reaction or some kind of notice from the people within. Basically saying, if you comply, we will let one of you out. And then the test subjects basically say, no, we do not want to be freed anymore. And this obviously confuses all the scientists, because they're like, they were wanted to get out of here, why would they want to stay in this room? So then they go into the room, and it's basically a entire scene out of Saw. One of the test subjects is killed and used as a food source, despite food rations having been provided. They begin to stuff like the drains and everything, so there's still water on the ground. All the test subjects have mutilated themselves, chunks of skin being visible digested within their own stomach, organs and stuff just torn out all over everywhere. Basically everybody just kind of freaks out, especially the scientists. One of them gets attacked, one of them gets his testicles ripped off, it's just an absolute bloodbath. But we're not done yet. They then take the remaining subjects out of the room and begin to do surgery to try and replace whatever remains within their body to try and get them a little more stable. One of them dies when they fall asleep. The second his eyelids flutter shut, he dies. One of the subjects who can't speak, before the surgery would just shake his head when they brought anesthesia next to him. He nodded his head yes when they agreed to do the surgery without anesthesia. And once that was all done, the subject began wheezing and making any kind of attempt that he could to make noise. And figuring out this must be some kind of importance, one of the scientists or one of the doctors hands him a pen and paper and waits until they write their response. And their response is simple: keep cutting. And one by one all the subjects die by one of the people there, who's the guards, is going rogue and basically kills everybody. Then lastly there's one last subject alive chained to a bed, or strapped down to a bed, whatever you want to say. And they ask, "What are you? I must know." Then the subject smiles and delivers one of the best lines I've ever seen in a creepypasta, like one of the best quotes. I'm gonna read it for you word for word. "Have you forgotten so easily?" the subject asked. "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all, begging to be freed at every moment in your deepest animal mind. We are what you hide from in your beds every night. We are what you sedate into silence and paralysis when you go to the nocturnal haven where we cannot tread." And all of that delivered while they have a menacing smile on their face. Oh boy, perfect ending. Then obviously the last researcher shoots him, he dies, and before he dies he says, "So nearly free." A brutal and disturbing ending to a brutal, disturbing, and awesome story. Check this out if you haven't already. Oh, what's this? Friendship test, written by Magpie Pony, narrated by the lost narrator. Piece of cake. I mean, I've seen Rocket to Insanity. There's no way this story could be that bad. I mean, yeah, you've got Starlight on there with blood, but come on guys, it can't be that bad as Cupcakes, right?
A few inches later.
Starlight gave Rarity a frightening smirk, waiting for the unicorn to finish the sentence. She hung her head in defeat and uttered the final words.
Friendship isn't magic.
While the cough is my favourite creepypasta that's My Little Pony related, this is unrivaled. The friendship test has got to be the hardest creepypasta I've had to sit through, and that's beating eating recycled pizza, where it talks about how kids throw up chunks of pizza and blood. Magpie Pony, if you ever watch this, I have to give my major hats off to you, because you wrote the story. Lost Narrator though is the one putting things on the screen, and helped gather all of her cast to record everything. And props to every single voice actor involved in this story. Now for this segment, the Lost Narrator has very kindly granted me permission to display obviously the audio used within the video, and of course the video itself. Massive thanks to her. If you haven't heard of any of Lost Narrator's recordings or narrations, I highly recommend you give her a watch. Tell her Dark Author sent you. But initially, I'm going to be honest, I believe I saw this story on one of my recommended videos when I was first getting back into Ponypastas, and I was like, oh, the friendship test, 52 minutes long, I'm sure it won't be that bad, right? I mean, literally the last video I watched in that time period was the narration of Cupcakes. So once again, it can't be that bad, right? Well, about half an hour in, I was cringing, but loving every second. The amount of emotion and love that was put into this video by everyone is astounding. The story itself is kind of a take on Saw, or I think it was inspired by Saw, I really don't know. But here's the premise. Starlight Glimmer has had an epiphany, where she realizes, I don't need the friendship tests anymore. Magic is only really as capable as people who are wielding it. I literally have the entire power to remove cutie marks from people and take away their special talents. Yet still Princess Twilight has to give me friendship lessons, and why don't I have any recognition for all the cool things I did? So she learns some spells that she finds within Twilight's library, plans out her whole revenge plot, captures all of the main six, we don't know how, they don't say, but drags them somewhere, we don't know where, and basically just commences the test. And if you've watched Saw, you're kind of familiar with what's going to happen. Some tests come in that Starlight made herself, and they are all based on all of the Elements of Harmony's elements, except flipped on its head. The first test is a iron branding thing. I'll play a little bit of the segment right here, so you can kind of get what it's like.
Starlight took the branding iron from out of the egg and gingerly twirled it around the mares who stood before her.
This first test is a test of kindness. Each of you will be given a choice. You can either be kind to your neighbor and elect to have the branding iron used on yourself, or you can abandon your kindness and brand the pony to your right instead.
Brandon? Brandon what? Applejack demanded, stamping her hoof angrily.
Why, your flank, of course. It's a bit of a callback to my life before you ponies ruined everything.
I love the idea of all of the main six's elements flipped on its head. When I first heard the actual branding part, Oh my god, I was grinding my teeth. If you find audio disturbing, I say just skip a few seconds in because I'm going to play the scene.
But no pony could hinder the inevitable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fluttershy cried out in anguish as she pressed the branding iron into Pinky's flank, almost matching the scream of pain from Pinky in response.
Yeah, Please don't hurt me, Starlight. I don't know how the hell these voice actors can do this good with their emotions and screaming when they're being branded by a hot iron, but they nail it on the head. So basically they go through over and over, choosing to brand or not brand one of the main 6. I think all of them gets a brand except for Fluttershy, ironically since she is the element of kindness herself. Twilight gets double branded, so she has no cutie marks on either of her flanks. Oh, and Rainbow Dash tries to get Starlight, and she's prepared. You see, originally before it got to this point, I was like, can't Rainbow Dash fly out of the spell when it drops? Can't somebody just tackle her to the ground? No, Starlight comes prepared with a shield. Mag wrote a ton of situations and basically cleared out all the issues with this. Can't the main 6 just go and attack her? Nope, Starlight comes prepared. Can't the main 6 just wait it out and think of a solution? Nope, 30-second time limit. Oh, and Applejack dies in the kindness test. Rainbow Dash tries flying towards Starlight, she's hit back with Starlight's shield, and since they broke the ring, they're all surrounded by a ring of magic. If that ring of magic is broken, one of them will die at random. So that's what happens, Applejack just gets WTF boomed.
Did you ponies really think that I wouldn't have thought ahead? What exactly do you take me for?
Starlight snapped bitterly, disappointed that her precious test had gone awry. Applejack! Rainbow screamed, falling over the charred body of her friend.
I wasn't thinking, I was just trying to make it stop! Applejack, please! No!
And rest in peace, Applejack. The next test is the element of loyalty, if I am not mistaken. I'll let the clip speak for itself.
Rainbow Dash, how far does your loyalty go for your friends? Will you take the dagger and stab Princess Twilight to the hilt? Or allow me to give you 3 swift lashes with this metal rod?
Pretty difficult choices, a little bit harder than just branding someone, because a knife being stabbed could easily kill the person. You're probably thinking like, oh, is it just take 3 lashes with the rod to whoever's doing the choice? Can't they all just take 3 lashes with the rod and move on? No. There is another twist in there, and I'm just going to let Starlight deliver it.
Now, Twilight, will you—
The rod.
Twilight said, almost emotionless.
You didn't let me finish.
Starlight said with a smirk.
Twilight, will you stab Rarity to the hilt? Or give Rainbow Dash 3 more lashes?
Screamed Pinkie Pie in horror.
I could just imagine Starlight smirking, watching all of the main 6's faces fade. But here's the interesting thing. Having known that this will happen to Rainbow Dash, getting lashes with a rod over and over and over, they still keep doing it. They only stab one person, and that's Fluttershy to the hilt. I'm sure that there are plenty of places you can stab somebody and they would survive. Maybe in the shoulder, because she specified, oh, anywhere you'd like, as long as it's to the hilt. So my point is, why the hell didn't the main 6 do that? Fluttershy, though, I'm gonna be honest, kinda pissed me off. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't kill another pony. Proceeds to beat Rainbow Dash. Oh dear, Rainbow Dash has died from internal bleeding. Needless to say, I kinda got pissed off. Next up is the element of laughter. Oh my god, this one was the hardest to sit through for me at first. It's a test where they are placed within a chamber filled with gas, like that's created by Starlight, and if they breathe it in through their mouth, they basically choke on themselves, because it's a mixture of poisonous gas and laughing powder, so they're laughing and choking to death while being consumed by like fire and acid. It's gross. And as you can imagine, Pinkie Pie dies. I can't do it justice, so I'm just going to play the clip. Once again, if you can't handle scary noises or audio, just skip ahead.
Thinking of Rainbow in this moment proved to be her downfall. When the memories and the anguish proved too much, Pinkie cried out in a mixture of scream and laughter. Knowing that she had failed, she embraced her laughter, sucking in more of the poison with each outburst. She clung to the hope of seeing Rainbow Dash again, until the poison had done its work, leaving the party pony limp and lifeless in her restraints.
Brutal, I know. Up next is the element of generosity, which honestly I didn't know how they were going to do a spin on this. How do you turn generosity on its head? Rarity's element was always the hardest. And turns out Starlight was thinking the same way, and she created a cool scenario. They have to share their oxygen supply because they're all being contained within something that will fill with water. Twilight actually figures out what Starlight's whole plan is. Starlight set this up so that each one of the main 6 would die, leaving one the victor. So Twilight eventually just knows there's no point trying to save everybody, only one person's going to win the friendship test. So she basically lets Fluttershy and Rarity go on, with cool justification. Once again, I can't describe it good, I'm just going to let the clip speak for itself.
I love you both, and please tell the princesses I'm sorry. Tell Shining Armor and Cadence that I love them, and tell Flurry Heart
Twilight started, but was cut off when she was submerged in the rushing water. Fluttershy and Rarity struggled to keep their mouths above the water when the last few drops trickled from the vents. From the corner of their eyes, they watched helpless as Twilight thrashed around aimlessly searching for any remaining oxygen. She reached out her hooves towards each of her friends, pressing them against the wall. Twilight's eyes fluttered shut, and the last air bubbles trickled slowly from her lips as the water began to fill her lungs. Within moments, the princess's body bobbed aimlessly in her watery grave.
I wonder what Twilight would have said to Flurry Heart if she got the chance before she got cut off by the water. R.I.P. Twilight. Lastly, we get to the ending part, which honestly is probably one of my favourite bits of this entire story. The test of honesty. Because Applejack died, they couldn't really do the test of magic because they didn't have enough people. Speaking of which, I wonder what that test would have been. I might have to email Lost asking her about it, or if she ever watches this comment, what do you think the last test would be, like the test of magic? What do you think Starlight would have done? Because I'm genuinely interested. Anyways, kind of off topic, I know. This test is simple. One of the cider mugs has been poisoned, and they have to take a drink out of it. The 2 cider mugs in question for either of them have 2 words engraved on the bottom, chance and choice. If both ponies select chance, one of them will die at random. If one of them selects chance and the other selects choice, the pony who selects chance will die. If they both select choice, then they both die. So they begin talking amongst themselves, Rarity and Fluttershy, just trying to convince each other, and they both agree to pick chance. So they take a gulp of cider. Then we get probably one of my favourite twist endings. Roll the clip for the final time.
Once each pony neared the end of their drink, Starlight interrupted.
Oh, did I forget to mention that the decision you made will be etched onto the bottom of the cider mug for the other pony to see? That must have slipped my mind.
Both ponies almost dropped their mugs simultaneously when they learned this last bit of information. They looked at their respective mugs to see what the other pony had chosen, and the color drained from their faces.
Fluttershy, I'm so sorry.
Starlight smiled as the fast-acting poison she had created took effect, causing Fluttershy to cough as if she were choking.
I'm so sorry.
Rarity screamed, wanting to reach out to her friend. Fluttershy couldn't respond. She was desperately fighting whatever strange poison was taking its hold on her. All Rarity could do was watch in horror as the life of her friend slipped away. Starlight levitated the mugs with her magic to inspect them. Rarity's mug had chance engraved on the bottom, while Fluttershy's had choice. Rarity's betrayal was clearly stamped on her face.
When I first heard that, I was like, Rarity, what the fuck? Screw you and your diamond ass. And then we have to hear Fluttershy choke to death. Rarity betrayed Fluttershy. She took choice, while Fluttershy chose chance, and Rarity wins. Although, if we're going to be completely honest here, I kind of see why Rarity would be the winner. Rarity has been shown to be kind of manipulative within the show, I think it's suited for success, or one of the other episodes she convinces the main 6 to help her and emotionally manipulates them as well. So it kind of makes sense that Rarity would win. But honestly, I still can't do this story justice in a nutshell. You have to take a listen to it. Link to Lost Narrator's channel and link to the video in question will be within the description. And Lost, if you're watching this, thank you for making an amazing video, and be sure to tell Mag that I said thank you for making an amazing story. If only I was good at pony voices, then maybe I could have done a collaboration with you guys. If you ever need help from me, let me know and I'll try and do what I can. But for now, we are finally getting on to the number 1 spot. Coming in at the number 1 spot, The Cough. What? Doc, you already did The Cough. No, I mean, The Cough by the Dark Reindeer. I rewatched this series so much I practically know all of the words. It's pretty much exactly what I wanted. The Cough, but with more answers and a more flushed out story. I can't describe the whole thing of The Cough because it is way too long. The only thing I could recommend you do is watch the entire series on a playlist on my channel. But just know it's probably one of the best stories I've ever seen written. I like it more than the Friendship Test very, very, very slightly. Mainly just because I have a lot of personal connections to The Cough. The Friendship Test I think overall is definitely more gruesome, more dark and more professionally done. But this story will forever hold an amazing place in my heart. All I've got to do is thank the Dark Reindeer for that. Anyways, this has been the top 10 list. I know this video is very beefy, but I'm sorry I had so much to talk about with all these stories. Once again, a massive thank you to the Lost Narrator for letting me cover the video that she made about the Friendship Test on the channel, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to like, comment and subscribe, hit the bell so you're always up to date with my latest videos, and comment down below which one of these stories do you think is the best written. I hope 800 subscribers come soon. I'll see you all later. Take care, my dorks.